one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on the agenda this evening is the introduction of the new planning commission members.
Yes, first I'd like to introduce Ms. Christy Mauer. I'd like to say a few words.
I'm very excited to be a part of the planning commission and look forward to working with everyone.
Good, thank you. Then we also have Mr. Trent Upshaw.
Hi. Previously city council, got booted off there. No. Moved and wanted to still be involved, so here I am.
Good, we appreciate it. All right. Next item is the approval of the minutes from the September 20th, 22 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th meeting.
I have a second.
One moment, please. So it became apparent that our recommendation or our requirements for our ordinance is that we should be doing roll call votes. And since we're doing Zoom, it makes it a little bit more difficult if we don't do roll call votes for minutes. So we'll have Mr. Kalman ask for a motion. After it's seconded, then I will do roll call, kind of like we do at council. And it'll be yay or nay. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I just didn't get that out yet. So I'm sorry, can you do the motion again? So I have that on the record.
I would make the motion to approve the minutes for September 20th meeting.
Thank you. So you second it, okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
DeGrand,
Yay.
McLean,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Upshaw.
Yes.
Mauer, yes, Kalman.
Yes,
Thank you. People.
all right. Next item on the agenda this evening is the consideration and vote to recommend approval of a final site plan for the Paola synthetic turf ball fields. Mammoth Sports Construction is the applicant.
Yes, and please hang tight with me. It's gonna be a lot of speaking and I apologize for the time. First, I want to make note that the attachments included the application, civil plan set, lighting plan, light pole spec sheet. And also that was added to the packets that were printed out for you guys is also a parking plan that was given to us late on Friday. So it's a 8.5 by 11 parking plan. So I just want to go ahead and before while we discuss that. So this project is request for a site plan approval for 2 new constructed synthetic field turf, replacing 1 existing natural turf field in Walnut Park. The site plan submitted by Mammoth Sports Construction, and it was completed by CEI Engineering Associates. The city of Paola is requesting professional services of Wilson & Company to review the site plan as well and to make comments as required. The total area disturbance for the project is about 4.06 acres, which includes the extension of the gravel park on the north side of the fields. Mammoth Sports Construction has also submitted the required notice of intent and stormwater pollution prevention plan to KDHE, and they are both currently under review. The stormwater prevention plan is approved and the notice of intent is under review. I'm getting notifications daily that it is being processed. So from KDHE. So that has been submitted. We also received comments from Wilson & Company, and they're in the final process of satisfying those as well. So they're towards the end of that whole process. So the minimum site area for a development like this is 4, and we're disturbing 4.06. So when we talk about the parking, you can look at the parking plan. The required is 1 for 4 feet of bleachers or 30 per field, which is greater. So in this instance, the 30 per field is greater. So the north side lot, the parking plan, the calculation is approximately 67 spaces. Yes, that can vary because it is gravel, so it depends on how people park, but that is the calculation we provided. And on the west side of the proposed fields, there is possible for 32 spots. Also, there on the proposed parking plan, it does not show it yet. That's because the city will be doing a trail from the pool parking lot attaching to the expanded parking lot north. So if you look on the parking plan, you can see that there's a little gate just north of the field on the right. That was actually the construction entrance that was used when the pool was built. So very level all through there, so there'll be a walking trail connecting the pool parking lot to the extended gravel parking lot, where the batting cages are now. So, the pool parking lot has approximately 90 spaces. The pool closes at 6, so hopefully that will also alleviate some parking issues that we have as well. Handicap required is 3 spaces, so the city will provide signage on the west lot to accommodate some handicap spaces as well. The parking lot surface, so section 12.43C, the gravel may be considered for parking areas associated with outdoor recreation facilities. So that is why the parking plan was provided, because it will be gravel due to the fact that it's in a recreation facility. It helps with drainage, so that way it's not all concrete. The lighting plan provided, the maximum post height is 80 and they are providing 70. Let's see, there will also be lighting extra lighting installed on one of the outfield poles, which is shown on the lighting plan as well. This will be 40 feet high and it will be directed toward the north parking lot only. It'll be a dusk to dawn setting, so it'll be on all the time, dusk to dawn, to help with parking lot lighting on the north side. So let's see here. I also have Dylan, who Mammoth Construction, who's here to answer any other questions you may have. I also want to note that this is for a recommendation. After this, your recommendation or denial will go to the city council for the final recommendation or denial. So that's all I have. Please let me know if you have any questions, and Dylan is here to provide any other feedback you may have.
The 3 handicap spots, that's 3 total, right? Not 3 per field, 3 total.
3 total.
And that's in addition to the 60,
No, that's included.
that's included.
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, you need 1 for 25.
And the handicap must be paved with hard surface to the facility, is that correct?
I'm not sure, honestly. I don't think so, not what I found, especially if you have the approved parking plan. I don't think that would be,
Okay, so a handicapped person is good to just go on the gravel and walk up there?
well, considering that's what it is now,
Right, but this is, isn't this a new build though?
sure.
I have a question on drainage, not being familiar with AstroTurf fields. That I see a drain over on the east side that drains into that slough that goes down through there. Does that drain both fields or just one field?
It will drain both fields,
Both fields.
tied together.
Okay.
Where are those tied together?
The west field, basically the northeast corner of the west field comes in and ties to the north.
Okay.
West corner of that field, and then there's a little bit together and outfall into the swale.
How high is that drain above the depth of the slough down through there? Or that's really-
About 5 feet off from the bottom of it.
I beg to differ.
No,
I understand.
No, this is, okay, let's put,
I-
wait,
I get-
let's put a stop, let's just do this. This is not a public hearing, it's a site plan review only. We are not taking comments from the public this evening. You're welcome to sit here and listen to the proceedings, but we won't be taking any comments or entertaining any comments.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, now back to our conversation. My concern with the drainage there is that if that swell fills up and you can't, and the ball fields don't drain, will that do damage to those ball fields at all?
No, it shouldn't. So the way that it's designed, there's like a 6-inch aggregate layer beneath the turf, and then the highest point of the drain, the top of the pipe would be at that level, and that would be all the way to the southeast corner. So the ditch itself within the field only gets deeper, and so basically the whole aggregate layer beneath the turf field acts as a detention pond of sorts, as well as the ditch that the pipes are in. So in general, there's calculations that we're working on right now to provide the the city engineering that's hired to show, sort of how much water is detained and the flow rates out of the pipe. But in general, if that swale were to fill up, it would surcharge that pipe. And it would start filling up in the ditches, which is all designed to sort of do that and hold it all, and then it all would come up into the aggregate. And then even in the case of a 100 or even like a 0.2% chance storm, which would be like a 500-year event. These fields are designed to flood, and the turf is going to be just fine. Occasionally, if you have rapid moving water on a flooded turf, you will lose some infill. But if it's mostly standing flooding, we won't see any issues with that. And we really common to put athletic fields in floodplains and floodways in a number of cities that we've done. And some have experienced flooding. Everything's fine. There's some sediment sometimes that has to be cleaned up, but otherwise the turf itself and the final product is still in great shape.
Thank you for educating me on that point.
How do you clean the sediment out of the base rock?
It's a little challenging, out of the base rock or out of the turf, like in the infill.
Well, I mean, for instance, so how thick is the total drainage system? I mean, I assume you have different layers of size of rock to help it drain.
Yeah, there's a fine aggregate that's 2 inches, and then a more coarse aggregate that's 4 inches.
Right.
And that is pretty consistent in most of the area. On the infield of a ball field, we try to grade the finish grade to be 0%. And so in those areas, the subgrade rock elevation actually gets deeper as it goes towards one of the drainage ditches. And so in there, it's kind of variable, but the minimum is 6 inches, but up to a foot thick of aggregate in the infield.
Okay, so I guess my question is if the aggregate does take on silt or sediment?
It would have to take it in from the outfall. It would have to come in somehow that way.
Right.
In general, the backing of the turf product itself doesn't allow for sediment to get into the aggregate drainage layer, but it would mix in with the infill. And there's a machine, it's like a fancy vacuum that sucks the aggregate and the infill and then cleans it out and discharges some infill back in. And then you do have to add infill to, in those cases, to a little bit of it.
Okay, so where are these layers and the outlet tube compared to the floodplain?
The almost the entire east field is in the floodplain, in the 0.2% chance flood.
Right, so if that's in the floodplain, what's to keep any backflow from coming into the outlet tube and then back feeding up into the subgrade?
They're retaining wall through the outflow too.
Yeah, the east field has a retaining wall.
Yeah, I saw that.
A little higher, but there's not, in the case for that water to go up that high, there'd be nothing doing that. There can be things installed like check valves or things like that on that pipe. We didn't, this flood area is a 0.2% chance or 1 in 500-year event. And
Right, but we had one event 5 years ago that was less percentage than that. And isn't that what the basic or the current floodplain is based off of 2017 event?
I'm not totally sure. I just looked at the maps.
Well, because if the floodplain is 857 and your outlet tube is 851, the outlet structure per detail, this is on C6. Right center, or I'd say right center field. Your outlet tube is 851. So that's 6 foot below the flood stage. Am I seeing that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess my question is if say for instance, the 2017 event, if the outlet tube is 6 foot below where the water got in 2017. I understand we're not going to get a lot of flood flow, but it's going to be more dynamic or static more than dynamic.
Understood.
But what's to keep
It's flowing out. I mean, the
Well, right,
drop
but
has
if
to
it-
be that way, so it drains from the field more than,
right, but if
you're asking, is it gonna flood up the
It would
Right.
surcharge, so it would surcharge the system, but most of the whole western field and being it tied together, and then even the southern part of the eastern field at 857.85. So you still wouldn't see, even in that case, you would, the outfield on the eastern field, you might see some standing water on the turf in
Right.
that event. But in the whole western field, you wouldn't see anything. There would be a ton of water, obviously, in the aggregate layer
Right.
underneath the ground. And that's by design. That's how they're kind of supposed to work. But I do agree, it's not the best, it's not the most ideal situation. On this.
Right, to answer your question, Andy,
Yeah.
what I was referring to is if Bull Creek continues to rise and then it gets up to the outlet tube. Eventually, if Bull Creek continues to rise to, say, a 2017 event, it will, I'm worried if the muddy water, sediment water continues to backflow up through all the aggregate and through all the subgrade. How much sediment is gonna be held into the subgrade?
Okay,
But I don't think I've ever seen it flood that.
you're talking about Bull Creek, that's across the street, across the other
Yeah.
fields,
Yeah,
coming 200 yards to
Yeah.
flood these fields?
because in 2017, that's where the water came up to.
And that's what
Came
you're
up to
saying
the
is a
road.
2% or one in 500
It
chance?
was, I don't remember being over there.
Yes.
It was over the road at the playground and up to the curb at the pool parking lot.
Yeah, that's
On
on
the
down
other
the road.
side.
Yes,
It was, you're right, it was,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
But
around the playground.
for elevation, that's
Sure,
what
but
it's
it
facing.
wasn't where the fields are gonna go. It was field at the playground,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was
I
down
believe it
there.
was at the flagpole on the major field.
No, never came across the road.
No,
Never came across.
Okay, well, we'll have to agree to
This
disagree
is, I
on
went
that.
down to a picture.
Because I printed this off. That's where it came up in 2017.
so what question? It happened in 2017, how long did it take to happen in 2017?
Well, technically, it should have never happened.
No,
That was why the Corps developed Hillsdale Lake.
so again, so I don't know how long that span is, so you're basing this off of something that would happen maybe once in 200 years, exactly why it was at 200 years, but
Could I see the picture?
Yeah.
Maybe I had a question I couldn't quite figure out in the LDO.
Sure.
The difference between floodplain and floodway.
sure,
One is allowed and one isn't allowed.
Yeah.
And I just,
I can tell you.
yeah.
I couldn't come up with that out of the
Sure,
book.
it's all,
understand that.
yeah, absolutely.
Floodways are federally regulated areas that you pretty much can't have any rise situation at all. So, the floodway, which we're avoiding, those are more in that Main Creek channel, like go south, and then wraps around to the east. We do have a floodway nearby, but in general, those are, you're not allowed to put any kind of fill in those areas. You can do construction, you can build things there, but they're supposed to be, making the situation better. So if you put fill in a floodway, that is now water that has been displaced. That will go somewhere else, some basement, things like that. So in general, we stay clear of the floodway. You can sometimes build things in floodways, but it's a pretty rigorous permit and a lot of hydraulic analysis to show that there would be no negative impact. So,
Yeah, I was just reading in the LDO that if it was a floodway, then it wouldn't be allowed.
correct. You wouldn't be allowed to have it built.
Floodplain would be allowed on a recreation field. But that's where it's trying to,
Yeah, floodplain
Cut here,
go
here.
up to the local jurisdictions.
A question? With the construction of the turf fields, how much does that raise the fields height wise than what they currently are?
So in general, around the perimeter, we're trying to match, and then there's not too much grading. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how much elevation gain they are. In general, most of the site elements on the perimeter are matching the existing, so that we're not grading out until every year. So within 6 to 12 inches of the existing grade.
Okay.
But you don't generally like to have to, it's costly to bring in earthwork material, so we don't generally like to raise sites up a lot. So we'll try to match, if not go a little lower due to topsoil stripping activities and things like that.
So your 4-foot retaining wall, that's just a wall alone. The field will still be the same elevation change.
Yep, if the infill and outfill will still look Great, and then just as coming out, we had to do a wall, because there wasn't room to cut or fill down into the grade, basically.
Okay, because I didn't know,
Totally.
I didn't know if you were planning a retaining wall and then filling dirt up the top of that 4-foot wall, or if it was just a retaining wall.
On the inside, on the field side, that is fill on the retaining wall.
Okay,
Yeah,
And then-
about 4 feet of fill.
okay, and since that's a flood, not a floodway, you can do it because it's.
Yep.
Okay.
Would the parking lots to the north are gravel? What is to keep gravel, there's dirt in it? What is to keep, and I don't know the difference between the altitude there and the field. What is to keep dirt from washing off that field out in or out of the parking area, out into the field? Is that going to integrate down into the drainage system?
There's a little bit of protection on that, so the whole perimeter of the, like where the fence is going, that all sits in a concrete curb. Kind of like a mated strip for the road, so that would sort of protect some of it, but sure, you might get some kicked over into the turf. I think that would just be a maintenance issue. I don't foresee like a major rain event washing a bunch of gravel into the field though. But I think there certainly could be some kicked up into there or.
I had a question going back to the very beginning on the parking. The north parking on a Friday night, if there was a ball game, would be in use by the American Legion.
Mhm,
And basically, as it is now, it fills it up.
mhm.
There's about 85 to 90 cars parked there on Friday evening.
Okay.
What effect do you think that's gonna have
Considering-
parking wise for the ball field?
Sure, considering this is rec ball and public parking, you gotta take all uses into consideration, so that's why we added the trail to the pool. To help with that, there's parking south, we're gonna take the fence down for those two fields, so they'll be right across the street, and there's also the 32 extra spots. So, that is 94, 32, and then however many you can get south of the field as well. for parking.
I guess,
So, go ahead. So the city owns that parking lot and not the Legion,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But the Legion does own that piece to the north of their building, that where that house was that got tore down.
Yes,
That's their private parking.
yes, sir, that's their private parking lot. Mhm.
So
They have their own private parking on top of public parking.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, but I'm concerned with public and private being confused when it comes to people parking there, I guess. So I assume there's gonna be some kind of signage that says public parking or something so that people know this is a public parking area versus private or whatever, do you know?
Yes, I'm
Is that-
trying to tread lightly.
Okay,
There is an agreement that I have legal, guidance on not to discuss right now, but there is signage included in that, yes.
okay, that's a good enough answer. I'll
Okay,
take that.
okay.
The other question I had with the parking. Right now, you can drive around Legion Building.
Mhm.
Is that still gonna be possible when this is done? And the reason I'm thinking on this is in case of an emergency and they have to bring an ambulance in there.
Mhm.
Can the ambulance get out of there without having to back all the way around to get out of there?
We contacted our fire reviewer and he designated Delaware through the alley as the emergency access. So
So,
that is as far as I can go on that as well, because that's also part of.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
But
okay.
yes, we contacted our fire reviewer. He designated Delaware through the alley, so it's on the
Yeah.
west side of the building through. That
But
was-
not
that was-
around, they can't drive clear around at this point in time. In other words, if I pull in at 67 space parking lot,
Mhm,
and I bring an ambulance in there.
mhm.
Now, am I gonna have to back out of there all the way back to Delaware? Because I can't drive around to the alley? Am I treading on the thin ground again?
Yes.
Okay. I shall drop that question.
Thank you.
I'll withdraw that question.
Okay, thank you.
Delaware is the street on the north side of the Legion, correct, connecting to Silver.
Yes,
And with these number of spaces, and especially on a Friday night with bingo and the Legion and everything. You also got to consider between ball games, 30 minutes prior to every game, if there's two games, which there usually is.
mhm,
But 30 minutes prior to the second game and 10 to 20 minutes after or into the second game.
Mhm.
That's also going to double all your cars as well.
sure. So, which is, yes, we'll have 95 spaces to the south, as well as the 32 on the side. And in phase 2 of this whole thing, we will also add more parking to the south, so to pull for those fields. So, I understand that what is given to you is very narrow, so it's only focused on 2 fields. There's a whole complex that we are trying to put together in different phases. So although it looks like there's not a whole lot of parking for this phase, we are adding parking in additional phases, so not all of it will be concentrated in one spot.
And correct me if I'm wrong, how many spaces are over here by the old Legion field? What I call the old Legion field. Back one.
Russell,
South of Wallace Park Drive?
yeah,
Yes, yeah,
Russell Field.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that Russell Field? I mean, I call it the Legion.
Yeah, it was the Legion
Sure.
lines from.
That is where we're gonna take the fence down.
And,
And so that way it'll be easier access for both fields.
yeah, and there'll be additional parking
Yes,
across
and
the
then,
street over there.
yes, and then phase 2 south of that, we're gonna add a whole bunch more
Yeah.
parking. So yes,
But-
it's just gonna keep coming back.
This phase, they'll be able to utilize
Yes.
that parking. also
Absolutely, yes. We'll
By
do-
the old Legion.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes.
Yeah. And do you know how many spaces are in there by any chance?
I do not.
Okay. There's quite a few because I use the park there a lot.
There is, yes,
So,
yes.
We always park there, so, yeah, okay.
But there's currently no work being done down there except for to remove the fencing to allow for additional parking, right?
Correct,
Which it's already gravel.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're just gonna remove the fencing, that way people can park and just walk across the street and don't have to go all the way down and around, just to make it easier for people to access.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay,
Is there any future talk on Delaware Street, Delaware, right? Delaware Street. So I mean, it's a pretty rough street as far as we're taking so much parking from here judging by these parking spaces, it looks like you're gonna want primarily most people to come in down the alley behind the Legion.
Mhm.
So that's gonna increase traffic on Delaware. Is there any talk of future renovations, like traffic study type discussion?
I can give you an answer, but since it's in the future, I don't want you to take that in stone. Yes, there's always discussion on what roads we need to pave on things like that, but I'm not gonna say that that is our next priority. I mean, our priority is to get all of this done first and then figure out what we need to do.
Right.
So,
Okay, I've got a question. Being walking around on the site down there, on the north edge of the American Legion building, there's city service gas.
Okay.
The gas supply that comes into the city comes across from the fairgrounds, actually comes all the way from out the pipeline by the Catholic Cemetery and comes in by the swimming pool and around through that way. The gas comes out of the building, American Legion, to the east a little bit, and then goes across underneath the concrete going south down the old alley.
yes,
The gas company has basically a 15-foot easement down through there.
Mhm.
And I see as it's marked where it crosses the street. It seems unreasonable to me that you would have a gas line,
Mhm.
active gas line going under the middle of the west ball field.
Sure, he can speak for that, I'll
And
say,
then-
but I know, we have contacted the gas company, they are aware, we talked to Mammoth, they're also aware, this is the first time they've done it. I'm not gonna speak on the system that they do, because I am not literate in that. I can't remember what they said, they pull up the line, fill under it, I believe, you know.
I'm not totally sure what discussion our operations team had with it, but we don't really like to have gas for it. Or any kind of utility under the field. So we probably have it rerouted or relocated unless the gas company can verify the depth and then it's deep enough to for sure avoid all of our ditches, which is also an option. Usually we don't count on it being deep enough and have some plan on rerouting it, but there might be this might be a situation.
My understanding was it wasn't any more than 3 foot deep
We, like I said,
at the deepest.
sure, we have contacted them, they're well aware, and then they said if they want to route it, they will reroute it.
Point of clarification, isn't there a ball field there now?
Huh?
Isn't there a ball field there now that kids play on?
No, it went down the old alley that disconnected the ball field off.
Well, the west field,
The existing field
This
that-
runs
the
right
existing
along
field.
the existing field. That I believe is what
So-
you're thinking of.
okay,
Basically kind of what.
so we already have people playing on this field.
Yeah, but we're not.
I mean, there's a lot of what ifs for a field that we already have, what we're making improvements to.
Kind of unofficial, what the gas company told me was. They didn't like the idea, but they had an easement
Mhm.
that they had no plans on moving it.
Okay, well,
And with an easement, the gas line is from 30 to 50 years old.
okay,
In other words, I was told at any given time, they could replace the line for maintenance.
mhm,
And if they did replace the line at that time, it would be at the city's expense. In other words, if there's an astroturf field over the top of it, they're gonna go right through the middle of it because they got an easement.
so I appreciate you doing that work, but that is my role. That's me to contact the gas company, that's me to figure out if it needs to be moved. So I appreciate you in that role. We contact the gas company, we're talking with them. So that is what I will give you now. And that was the discussions that we had.
I was just basically bringing it up because I couldn't see it anywhere.
I appreciate that, thank you.
And quite frankly, in my own opinion, it doesn't look like a very good idea to have a gas line under a field
I appreciate that.
and a $2 million project.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Where's the gas line on the new drawings?
I can't find it on the new drawing. It's made a tiny reference, but I don't see it going through the field.
Is that gas riser?
I honestly,
It's on the west northeast, right?
Yeah.
It's on the west field.
So the west field's already there, right?
No,
No,
the field that was there, there's an overlay of it.
Right.
They tore the field down. And this is gonna go over the existing field.
Okay.
the, it's kind of like,
Yeah, I think that's a gas right.
it'll kind of be like that, like there. It comes out under the concrete here.
That's right, I'm trying to see one.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I see it. Okay, thank you. That, we show you. from the- yeah, that makes sense.
It goes underneath Full Creek. And supplies all the houses on Old Kansas City Road, South Dakota.
For this layout, is there? What about concession stands and restrooms?
that is not with this space.
Okay.
There's existing working restrooms at south of the field.
I believe they're
The
locked
pre,
most of the time.
I'm sorry, I'm getting there. The
Okay.
previous, I don't say rec commissions, it wasn't, the previous rec volunteer program did not want to use them, so they were locked because they didn't have anyone to clean them. So that's why the porta potties were brought in.
Okay.
So we are looking to unlock them. Hopefully with the new rec director, we can have more help maintenance with that. And upkeep.
Let me ask you, Randy, on this gas line issue,
Mhm.
they could either move it or leave it.
Mhm.
If they left it, the fields would get built over the top of it.
Mhm.
And that, if we approve the site plan, that's what would happen, correct? It goes to city council,
Yes.
obviously,
Yes,
the city council is the final say.
absolutely.
Do you have any idea how long it would be till you get an answer back from gas service on what they're gonna do?
Our public works directors already talked with them. So just waiting to hear back, but we told them what we're doing. We told them all of our plans. So that is, from what we've understood, is if they had a problem, they would contact us, and they would move it.
Okay, the reason I was asking
Sure.
is there's two big unknowns right now.
Mhm.
And that's that gas line, which is kind of important
Sure.
for everybody. And then the parking's kind of another issue that is interrelated to the agreement between the city and the Legion.
Mhm.
And I'm leaning towards making a motion to table this until next month and try to get those questions answered. I'm not making the motion. I'm just saying, these seem to be, and I don't, and maybe the other members of the planning commission can make a vote without that information, and I can too. I mean, there's nothing that keeps me from doing it.
I think those are reasonable things to put as conditions for approval for city council to make.
Okay,
We can get that.
we can add those in there.
Yes, we can definitely get those done by the city council meeting on November 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Is the current field in use?
It's no longer.
Yeah, they've tore it down.
It's flat.
But it had
Yes.
on Fridays,
Uh,
or with the elite, with the American Legion being there.
From what I understand, rec ball doesn't usually play on Friday nights. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Which is what these rules are purposed for.
Right. Like tournament.
And they only play so many months a year. They don't play 12 months a year. So a large portion of the year would be a mute point anyway,
Absolutely.
because they're not playing ball.
Yes, sir.
I do have a question on page C2. What's on the gravel areas? What's the difference between the light gray and the dark and the black?
Oh, the dark was a representation of where the new field would go. So like the light gray gravel would remain and the dark gray gravel would be demoed.
Okay,
But we are actually demoing and rebuilding the north area. That's light gray.
okay, so my question on that then is, which would be the west field? The right field, where, is that Legion property that loops down into the fence way?
So again, we're getting into what we cannot discuss and should not be part of this. So that is part of the agreement that we are not pertaining to discuss for legal. So that should not be part of the site plan. You can only deny and recommend approval for the LDO section.
Okay.
So the main question is, does the site plan that's been submitted follow the LOD?
Oh, yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Alan, please. Thank you, sir.
I've only been on the commission for 6 months, I believe. And from what I've experienced so far with other sites, so this is a final site plan, this isn't preliminary. Okay, so off of my 6 months, 5 months experience, when we go over site plans and we approve it, it just seems like those other site plans are more defined and have more information. Site, traffic flow, traffic studies, water flow studies.
So I will say that the last meeting, when you guys approved the Lake Mary without a complete west side drainage study, I
Right,
think this is probably in comparison.
right. And yes, and I was gonna use that as an example. And, but like the Casey's, the Scooters Coffee, as far as traffic inflow, outflow, flow, direction of traffic. I mean, with this parking, it kind of leaves a lot to the imagination as far as Delaware. And I understand that's the future, but with your point of that's future, that's what we want. It's, in one way, it's prediction, no more than it could flood next spring like 2017. So I mean, we're all in prediction moments when we try to discuss this, is what I'm getting at.
Can you clarify your question for me?
Well, my main question was if this was preliminary or final, because it seems like in other site plans, we've been presented a lot more information.
I would like to differ, but this is a final.
Okay, very well.
But we're using past history and records to determine the 2%, the 1 out of 500. I mean, there's actually numbers and facts to this. It's not just
Absolutely.
speculation.
Yes, there is.
I mean, you can what if anything to that.
Absolutely. There's
And that's what
engineers.
that
We had an engineer review the engineer. We have the KDHE approvals and we have a pending KDHE approval. We have done all of that, work, which was not with previous items.
Okay.
We have done all of that. Thank you.
Well, I'm kind of leaning possibly to what you were talking about. As it stands right now, with the uncertainty on this gas line, and then from the information that I was told, and some of the other factors, but the gas line is a big concern to me.
I understand it's a big.
I, at this point, I could not approve it. In other words, I might entertain the fact that would put it off for a month. But that's just my reasoning, and I think that's part of any decision that we make, we're supposed to give a reason for it. So that would be my reason for that.
Would anybody know, has there ever been an issue with the gas line in the years where the ball field was being used?
Not
If
that,
if it runs alongside of it?
not that I'm aware, but I will say that Calman's suggestion of recommending it with the conditions of the gas line and the parking being resolved for council. I think that is a possibility for you to trust your council to do that. And they also have the option to table it as well if it is not satisfied by that meeting. That is always an option for them as well.
And then to come back to,
So they can table it for 30 days to modify, actually, exactly, to modify per design requirements. So it doesn't have to come back to you. They can say, we want X, Y, and Z, and they have to table it and give them 30 days to satisfy it. And then it'll come back for approval to the city council.
Once we move it,
Yes,
we're done.
yes. But they do have option to table and to add more conditions onto it. Absolutely.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion. I move to recommend the approval of the final site plan for Walls Park Ball Fields with the following conditions. Resolution of the gas line issue and the finalization of the city/Legion agreement. I don't know if that's the right word, but
What was the second one again, Steve?
the resolution of the agreement, let's change that. Let me remake the motion.
Okay.
I move to recommend approval of the final site plan for Wallace Park Ball Fields with the following conditions. Resolution of the gas line issue
Mhm.
and the finalization of legal agreement. Legion legal agreement? That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I don't, yeah,
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
Let's do it that. Okay, I've made the motion.
I'll second.
I have a second.
DeGrand,
Nay.
McLean,
No,
Parks,
Yes.
Upshaw,
Yes.
Mauer,
Yes.
Calvin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Takes care of that. Next item on the agenda is the Community and Economic Development Director's Report.
Yes, Jessica sent a lovely list for me to read from this. The LDO text amendment was approved by the city council at the last meeting. So those will be, those have been adopted per ordinance and are now on the website. The 2018 code adoption public hearing was held last city council meeting. We had no participation from the public. So next month, the city council will adopt the 2018 code per ordinance. We have 398 building permits for the year. The T-Mobile store has passed the final inspections and they're opening any day. They've got accepting every day for their occupancy permit. And then for Ward 2, we all see that Mr. Upshaw has no longer a council member. So Ward 2 is filled by Deborah Hayes. So that got filled at our last meeting as well. Other than that, that is all that I have.
All right,
Where's the T-Mobile store going?
Baptiste, I believe in the old Auburn. Oh, no, Heyday?
yeah, it's right, the strip center where Spring of China and all that is in there, and then
Oh, okay.
you go across.
By
and-
the nail and
Oh, okay.
that strip mall.
It was Gambino's Pizza and.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of things, you know?
Yeah, it's been a bunch of stuff in there.
Yeah.
All right. And did you mention why?
Jessica is not here with us today because she is on a beach in Jamaica, sipping Mai Tais and enjoying the sun while we're all freezing. So
Well, everybody wait.
way better. I'm sure.
Everybody wait. All right. Well, anybody have anything for staff? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second,
Okay,
DeGrand,
Aye.
McLean,
aye.
Parks,
Yes.
Upshaw,
Aye.
Mauer, Calvin.
aye.
Thank you,
We're
everybody.
adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.